Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. I'm Charles Williams, and together we'll explore untold stories, bold ideas, and innovative approaches that transform our schools and communities. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Counter Narrative Podcast. As always, thank you so much for joining me in this space, whether it's the audio, the visual, maybe you're doing a combination of the two, doing a little bit of both. But regardless, thank you so much for being back in this space. You know, I always talk about individuals that I get to share space with. And last year, I woke up to an email one day. It was one of the first for me to say, hey, we really want you to be at this conference. And I was like, wait, did I submit a proposal? Like, which one was this? Because, you know, it was at a time where I was just throwing myself out there to everybody. And I was like, I haven't submitted anything, but they want me, which felt very, very good. And through that process, I got to meet an incredible individual who, to be honest, put together one of the most star-studded events that I've ever been to. It was incredible. And I'm looking forward to rejoining NCMLE and this phenomenal guest today, David James. David, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks, Charles, for having me today. That's a great introduction. And I remember that email and I remember that communication and your involvement in our conference last year and this year. We're really looking forward to. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the Counter Narrative Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And by no means am I, exaggerating, engaging in hyperbole. I remember sitting around and having conversations with these speakers who were in that space. And we just kept saying, like, this is incredible that we are all here. We're all sharing space at this event. And we could only imagine what it was going to look like the following year. And just in a few weeks from the drop of this episode, I get to be in that space again. So before we jump into that, tell us a little bit about who you are. Obviously, you have your NCMLE shirt on, but I know you're more than just NCMLE. So tell us, who is David James?
Yeah, so thank you again. My name is David James. I'm a seventh grade social studies teacher, first and foremost, at a school in Charlotte, North Carolina. I teach with a district called Cabarrus County Schools, just north of Charlotte. I have been with Cabarrus County Schools for about 15 years, and I'm originally from the state of Ohio. Graduated from Ohio University in 2007. And at that point, the education and just kind of everything in general was kind of going through kind of a lull transition. And I substitute taught for going on 4 years of substitute teaching, which for many of us that graduated around that time, and then, maybe shortly after that, getting a job was very difficult from 2007 to 2010. So when I was substitute teaching, I kind of got to know myself as an educator, got to question myself as an educator, and just kind of wondering what I was going to do, but finally landed an interview with a school named Harold E. Winkler Middle School, just north of Charlotte. And in 2011, I started 2 weeks later from that interview right here in a town called Concord. So that's where I've been. I taught here at Winkler Middle School as a seventh grade social studies teacher for 5 years. And then I had these grand aspirations of being an assistant principal. So that's what I did for 4 years. And then in 2017-ish, my son was born, and we kind of took a step back as a family and kind of reevaluated kind of what we wanted to do as a family moving forward. And I always questioned the decision about being an assistant principal. What was my impact? What was I going to do next? What was my aspirations and education in general? And I found myself back here at Winkler as a seventh grade social studies teacher again. And it's been amazing. And the last 4 or 5 years of my career back here in this classroom has just been the best years of my career. We're going to talk a little bit about teacher leadership and the role that goes into playing that. But for me, the perspective I have as a previous school administrator and now back in the classroom has made me twice the teacher that I was ever before I left previously. So that's a little bit about my career. Within all that, thankfully, I was offered that position as assistant principal and met some incredible people who gave me the opportunity to join the North Carolina Association for Middle Level Education. And I have been part of that organization for the last 4 years. I've served as the marketing director of NCMLE for 4 years. And for the past 3 years, I've had this enormous task of putting together an incredible conference in Charlotte. We are going on year 52, I believe, as our annual conference as an organization, and it just keeps getting better every year. I'm incredibly grateful for the connections that has come with NCMLE, and the social media that has connected me with so many people, including yourself. You know, when I joined here at Winkler in 2011 as a school teacher, I had no idea that I would be able to just leverage all of that teacher leadership into kind of what I am really proud of today, and making connections with you, Charles, and all the mutual friends that we have kind of across the country in the EDU world. So, like I said, I started as a seventh grade social studies teacher. I am here as a seventh grade social studies teacher. I'm literally sitting in my room right now as we record. But also, I'm a father and a husband. My son is a second grader at Harrisburg Elementary here in Cabarrus County Schools. I'm incredibly proud of him. He is an incredible little boy, superior athlete, great kid, loves everything there has to do with life. And I'm just really proud of the small family that we have here and have grown into in Charlotte, North Carolina. Still have family back in Ohio. Just got back from visiting them over winter break. Love to go back up there, but wouldn't change this journey for the world right now. And just looking forward to everything that the future has to come. I'm kind of on the back side of my career, which is incredible to think about as well. But we got a lot of learning to do, a lot of growth to do personally. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Man, I appreciate that introduction, learning so much about you. My nephew is a huge fan of Ohio State, so he will be happy to hear that. And shout out to your son. You know, if he, for some reason, if he was to watch this, just let him know that he is being seen, heard, and loved on. So shout out to you, little guy. Dave, I just want to say thank you again for being in this space. And I think you brought up an incredible point about this journey. And I think most of the time people think about a journey as an upward trajectory, right? I'm a teacher, then I become an assistant principal, then I might have, kind of like a principal, maybe some district stuff, right? As I'm up that upward trajectory. But as you mentioned, you went from teacher into the AP role and then back down. I've shared before, I sat in the principal seat for about a decade before dropping back down to the AP role, and for very similar reasons, just reevaluating spaces in life and saying, what are the demands? What is it that I want to accomplish? And maybe even recognizing I don't need to, right? And we say this a lot, that leadership isn't about positions, right? It's about the roles that we play, the work that we do within our spaces. And I think oftentimes I'm starting to see more and more of a trend that people like us are living that. We're not just saying, hey, we got to be in these positions. And I think you had started hinting at this idea of around what that looks like for teacher advocacy, for teachers leading into leadership. And so I'm curious, what is it that you want to dive into today?
Yeah, something I'm really passionate about is teacher leadership. When I first started with Cabarrus County Schools, they were starting what was known as the teacher leadership cohort. And I had the opportunity to kind of join that cohort, and they do a phenomenal job, cultivating leaders and teacher leadership here within the district. And then to your point, the obvious trajectory is to go into the administrative role. But from what I found is that the impact I was having there was not the impact that I wanted to have when I went into the job. And that's not to say the AP role cannot be that, because I did have plenty of conversations with my principal about, well, you got to make it what you want it to be. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I just couldn't find that spot. And then when I was looking back into just being a teacher and just having the impact with those students in my classroom. So when I came back, that was my goal. But then as I was kind of still getting pulled into the leadership roles, I soon found out that, to your point, the title doesn't make the leader. So if I could just empower anybody who's listening today and who's a teacher and is thinking about going into those leadership positions, like, you are being called upon to do that within your classroom, obviously, but you have an incredible opportunity to do that within your building as well. So one thing that I'm super proud of that kind of rolled all this teacher leadership into the right direction was what I call the Wolfpack Workshops in-house PD series here at Winkler Middle School. And this kind of took my teacher leadership to an incredible level, and it's kind of given me avenues to kind of take that and roll it into other people's leadership as well. here at our building, we had to take a deep look into what we were doing with student achievement. And what we had found was within student achievement, our students were not growing at a rate that we're historically used to. And I had a conversation with my principal and I said, it is my opinion that the teacher leadership in this building is at an all-time low. I've been here since 2011. Again, I took a little bit of a break, but since I've been back, there is nobody in this building that is learning and taking initiative into doing better. And that's not to say we don't have incredible teachers at Winkler Middle School, but we're just complacent. And that's what was showing in student achievement as well. So as part of my teacher leadership and kind of getting outside of my comfort zone back in the classroom, I took it and we ran with it. And we created an in-house PD series that would allow teachers to really advocate for their students, really personalize the PD within our building. We meet every Friday from 8 to 8:30, and we have teacher leaders that are leading professional development that is voluntary, that is in-house, and that is personalized for our school building. And what we found, and that was in the fall of 2022, what we found in student achievement in 23 and then last year in 24 was an incredible growth, some of the highest growth that we have had in student achievement in Winkler history. And now, is that to say that student achievement kind of teacher efficacy and professional development corresponds with student achievement? I don't know. There's pieces of that we could go back and forth in, but it is my belief that empowering teachers, letting them have a voice, giving them the opportunity to grow as a professional also builds confidence in educators as well. So confidence in educators 100% trickles down to student achievement in our opinion. So that is one piece of teacher leadership, that if I can empower someone to take something and run with it, or if you have an idea and run with it, your administrators are waiting for you to do this. These administrators, and I live the life, are so busy with so many other things, some of the things that I did not want to do. And that's why you find me here in 701 at Winkler Middle School again, right? But they are waiting for someone to take this lead and to put it into practice in their school building. And it is an incredible, empowering thing to do when we have 30 to 40 staff members that are all circled around one teacher that is presenting something that is so powerful. We have also leveraged that into county celebrations here at the district level. I have met with people across the country on Zoom and on the phone talking about how can I put something like this together in my class, in my school, because PD is expensive. And sometimes when you bring somebody in, it has nothing to do with what you have going on in your school building, right? So how can we do this within our school building that empowers my teachers, that then trickles down to student achievement? So again, teacher leadership and advocacy is something I'm really passionate about, and something that you just got to take control of. Nobody, like, thankfully I had some individuals that kind of, touched me on the shoulder and said, hey, you're the man, go do this. But also you have to take it upon yourselves. And I think teachers sometimes get in our own ways, and we're waiting and we're not, but you're in control of that. You take control, you do it. Talk to your school administrators, talk to your leaders in the building, get everybody together. And I think you could do something like this that could be really special for your school.
Dave, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I think it's incredible. I would love to learn more about these workshops that you were mentioning, because immediately I started thinking about like my IoT and individuals, and I'm like, I wonder how we could leverage some of this. So maybe that's an offline conversation, but I'm wondering, like, in my experience, very similar to what you were saying, is that I've been in spaces where a lot of times staff are complacent, and it's not a call out. It's not a negative observation. It's just that it's an observation to say we're okay with the status quo right now.
Mhm.
But I'm curious, why do you think that so often maybe teachers are reluctant to step into the leadership role? And I'll bring out an example. Like with our IoT, for the longest time, our IoT consisted of two people, me and one of my teachers. That's not an IoT. But I was trying to bring individuals in, and they're just like, no, we don't want to. And they had a variety of reasons. We've grown. We're a group of 4 now. So I'm very, happy about that. But we're still looking to bring people in, and we're still running into some of that, where there are teachers who are hesitant to step into the leadership role for one reason or another. So I'm curious, what is, in your opinion, based on your experiences, what do you think one of the reasons is for people to say, hey, you know what, I'm not ready to do that, or I don't want to step into a leadership position, right? Quote, leadership position as a teacher.
Yeah, I think I can't speak to all buildings specifically, but my building specifically has a very strong mentorship program. We have teachers in our building that have been here since the beginning. So in 2011, when we opened this building, we have a dozen teachers that are still here, and I think that's something that we don't see often. Honestly, in education, loyalty, and some of these things, that characteristics, they're not strong in some buildings, right? So we kind of bounce around and we do things that maybe uh, green grass is greener on the other side kind of thing, right? But we have people in this specific building that have been here the whole time, and those are mentors to young teachers, and those mentors do serve on the ILT or the school leadership team, and those were the individuals that I asked specifically, I need some help getting this off the ground. What how can we get you started on a Friday morning to talk about something? And I leaned on those school leadership team individuals to get things going in the right direction. And we had a full calendar shortly after that of workshops all the way up to the end of the year. So I think a strong mentor program is probably most necessary when it comes to these things as we cultivate our younger teachers. Um, Here specifically, we do have a lot of beginning teachers. We have the most beginning teachers that I think we've ever had in this building. And I serve currently as the lead mentor of the building. So I'm working with our mentors to have these conversations with our BTs to keep them here and to keep them moving in the right direction in their growth and their development. So a strong BT program is certainly necessary, I think, to advocate leaders as it pertains to BT careers and things like that.
I appreciate you sharing that. I think you're right. I think sometimes it's we need to redefine what it means to be a leader, right?
Mhm.
And saying, hey, I'm going to grow in that capacity. I'm going to grow that confidence in you. I think a lot of times when we think of leader, right, we think of something like as you were mentioning, I'm running workshops for my school. And it's like, maybe you don't have to be at that level yet. Eventually, if you want to grow to that point, then you can. But maybe it's simply saying, hey, you're a veteran teacher. I want you to bring a new teacher under your wing and just guide and help to mold them,
Yeah.
right? And like that is leadership.
Yeah.
And so I think you're absolutely right. If we redefine our concepts, our beliefs, our perceptions about what it means to be a leader, because even though I might be the assistant principal at a building, I might be a principal at a building, whatever it might be, that's just one type of leadership that exists within that space. And so I know you've dropped a few ideas, and I'm sure that people going back through this episode can, tag them and say, hey, I want to learn more about this, want to do this. But if those wanting to walk away with the takeaway, what is something, whether if I'm a school leader, that I can maybe implement within my school to help grow leadership, or maybe I'm a teacher who's looking to step into my possibilities, my capacity as a leader within the building. What could be a takeaway from this episode right now, that they could implement tomorrow?
Yeah. So the in-house professional development is something that I'm super, super passionate about, and I love to talk to people about. So, shoot me a message in social media, and we can definitely talk more about that. But one thing that here in the last year or so that I have really personally kind of seen in my personal growth is just controlling the controllables. As a teacher in the building, we go through these ups and downs, and currently we are seeing a demographic shift in our building that has taken some ups and downs as well, and has also changed the dynamic of the teaching staff as well. But I I can't control that, right? So I need to tell myself on a daily basis to slow down. And I get this from EDU expert Jimmy Casas visited the school here recently. We won a national competition, and he came and did a presentation for the school. Incredible time we had with him in our building. But the first slide he put up on the screen, and it just took everybody's breath away, was the words "slow down." And I think he's right. And I think we just need to just understand that this business and this career is a marathon,
Mm-hmm.
and we need to just make sure that we are controlling what we can control. The boundary shifts, the upset parents, everything that is on the outside peripherals, we cannot let control our mindset. We cannot let control our career. I have conversations with one of the best things about coming back into this the teacher role is that I can reconnect with teachers as well, for better or for worse. When you're an administrator and you're in the main office, right? You can't have these very detailed conversations with your teaching staff. And this is something that I enjoy. But, when I have these conversations, it always comes back to, well, listen, man, you can't control that, right? Like you have the ability to control this within your classroom and within your school. I need you to focus on that. And sometimes that, makes the other person upset and gets an eye roll, but it is what it is, right? Because at the end of the day, we have a career and we have an opportunity to influence kids. And within this classroom, I have the ability to influence 30 kids in an hour every single day. And I cannot let other things get in the way of that. So I control my positivity. I control what I can control. I also feel like in the last year or two, connecting with people in social media can certainly have a big impact on your career as well. This is one piece of BT advice that I like to have with them as well. When we do beginning of the year meeting, I always bring up the power of social media and using social media to control the positivity within your life. You have the opportunity, and the algorithm will adapt to you, whether you're scrolling positivity in the education world or scrolling negativity in the educational world. So you have the opportunity to have that mindset and to have that influence within your own life. So social media has certainly made a big impact on my career in recent years. It's hard to believe I just teach 7th grade social studies right here in Concord, North Carolina, and still have connections with you, Charles, in Chicago, and Darren in Nebraska, and people in Texas. Like it's just an incredible transformation that my career has gone through, and it's because of social media. And it's because of the decision that I made to have a positive impact within that platform. So those are kind of two takeaways: control the controllables, and within that, make those connections, network with others that can have that positive influence within you.
And I appreciate that. I love that. I love that phrase, control the controllables. Just this past October, I did a closing like TED talk for the Illinois Principal Conference here in Illinois. And that was my topic, right? I was saying, bring it back to the middle. That's something that me and my other AP in the building, because, we talk about these things that are outside of our control or that are important, but don't really something like, hey, just bring it back to the middle. We know that Venn diagram. We've all seen it. So I'm just like, hey, just bring it back to the middle. So I love that control, the controllables. I've had an incredible conversation with you. We're going to talk a little bit about how people can contact you. I know you talked about growing your network, reaching out, even to learn more about some of the things you talked about. But before we do, in just a couple of weeks from the airing of this episode, there's a phenomenal event happening in Charlotte, North Carolina, one that I am excited. I mentioned at the beginning that I will be back in, but there's still an opportunity for those watching and listening to join us in those spaces. So I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the upcoming conference.
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I am the conference director of the North Carolina Association for Middle Level Education annual conference. We are back in Charlotte, North Carolina for our third year there, and it is an incredible space and just an incredible opportunity to further your network and to develop as an educator. We welcome over 500 educators into Charlotte, into our conference. It is a middle level education conference, but you will find sessions, 100 plus sessions of different grade spans and different content areas. We've got a featured speaker lineup that is second to none. I think you will find some of the best featured speakers in the country at VDU folks, including yourself, Charles. I mentioned Dr. Darren Peppard from Nebraska. Principal Baruti Kafele from New Jersey is coming back for year two. Dr. Edith Trevino from Texas is a multilingual specialist that is coming with Dr. Marie Marino. Their network is coming from Texas to talk different sessions about multilingual learners. Dr. Julie Hasten from Appalachian State University is a local professor that has a great connection with NCMLE. Our vendors are also really, really important to this conference. So we're going to welcome back the Teach Better team and Chad Ostrowski, who's going to be joining us from the Teach Better team. So we have so many just great connections that have come up in the last few years. In our conference, people argue is big enough for you to learn a lot, but small enough to feel important. Like I said, we have over 500 educators that come. We have multiple social events. On Sunday evening, we'll have trivia night. On Monday evening, we will have karaoke night. So we have a lot of fun. The dates is March 23rd through the 25th, 2025, right there in Charlotte, North Carolina. One thing we're really, really proud of this year that I want to make sure that we keep in perspective, the North Carolina piece, is that we are welcoming the 2024 North Carolina Teacher of the Year, Miss Heather Smith, who is a middle school math teacher from Haywood County. So this connection with Heather and the connections from around the world just brings in an incredible, diverse and demographically diverse group of people into Charlotte, which is a beautiful, beautiful city in March. So get away from the cold weather. Come down to Charlotte, North Carolina and join us. You can go to ncmle.org today and register for the conference. And then if you would like to shoot me a message on Twitter or email that I'll share with Charles, and I can help you out with registration, with hotel booking, with all of those things, and just make it a great time with your team. If you're coming individually, I absolutely promise you will leave fulfilled. You will leave with a filled bucket. You will meet people that you will connect with and you'll be able to grow with in the future. If you come with your team, you'll be able to go back to the school for the spring quarter, the spring semester, and just feel refreshed. One thing that I'm really proud of is that March time is like the perfect time for teachers to go back into the building and feel like, yes, I can do this for a month and a half more, right? I feel good. I feel refreshed. I'm going to bring back these great ideas to my classroom and just kill it for the rest of the school year. So we're really proud of our conference. We're really proud of everything that it entails, from the social events, the 3 free meals that are included in the registration. One other thing that we do as part of our annual conference is the NCMLE Awards. Every year we celebrate excellence in North Carolina middle school education. New for this year, we are celebrating teachers from each region, and then we will also give a statewide North Carolina Middle Level Teacher of the Year award. But we celebrate administrators of the year, beginning teachers of the year, support staff members of the year, team teachers of the year. So one of the great things about the conference is not only the PD, but the celebrations of middle school excellence that we're really proud of. So anyways, join us March 23rd through the 25th here in just a few weeks. And we look forward to seeing you right there in beautiful Charlotte, North Carolina.
Would thank you so much. I'm looking forward to joining you. I'm flying in that Saturday. I will be there all the way through Wednesday. Opportunity to take in some more of those sights of Charlotte, but of course to spend time in communion with all of you at the conference. So really looking forward to it. So before we close out, I know we've kind of hinted at people can reach out, connect with you, whether it's to learn more about those workshops or to join the upcoming conference. So can you share, how can people reach you? How can they find you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on all the social media outlets. You can find me on Facebook at David James. You can find me on Twitter/X at Heroic History 22. Heroic is a shout out to my team of teachers. We are the Heroic Wolves here at Winkler. So Heroic History 22 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I like to have some creative fun with my students on TikTok. So Heroic History 22 there as well. You can also follow the North Carolina Association for Middle Level Education at NCMLE on all of those social media sites as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, NCMLE.
Well, I appreciate that. So thank you so much. I mean, obviously, for coming on and spending your Saturday morning with me in this space and having this conversation. I truly enjoyed it. But thank you. I mean, overall, just one, for the work that you do, for stepping into the classroom, bringing leadership into that space, and not just within yourself, but growing it amongst your team and encouraging others to do the same. And of course, putting in this special space where we can all gather together once a year and learn and grow and lead together. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Charles, for the time. Man, I will see you in March when our paths cross again. Really appreciate the partnership, really appreciate the friendship, and we'll see you just in a few weeks.
Yes, and listeners, viewers, wherever it is that you're gaining this this episode today, I want to say thank you for listening and joining us. And now, as always, until next time.